After mishap with Boeing's spacecraft, NASA faces a dilemma. As it probes why Boeing's Starliner spacecraft suffered a serious setback during a flight test last month that forced the cancellation of its planned docking with the International Space Station, ISS, NASA faces a high-stakes dilemma. Should the space agency require the company to repeat the uncrewed test flight, or allow the next flight to proceed, as originally planned, with astronauts on board? The answer could have significant ramifications for the agency, and put astronauts' lives on the line, at a time when NASA is struggling to restore human spaceflight from the United States since the Space Shuttle fleet was retired in 2011. Forcing Boeing to redo the test flight without anyone on board would be costly, possibly requiring the embattled company, already struggling from the consequences of two deadly crashes of its 737 MAX airplane, to spend tens of millions of dollars to demonstrate that its new spacecraft is capable of meeting the space station in orbit. But if NASA moves ahead with the crewed flight, and something goes wrong that puts the astronauts in danger, the agency would come under withering criticism that could plague it for years to come. For now, NASA is moving cautiously. It has formed an independent team with Boeing to examine what went wrong with the Starliner during last month's test flight. NASA also is reviewing data to help it determine if the capsule achieved enough objectives during its truncated flight to assure NASA that its astronauts will be safe. On December 20, an Atlas V rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral, delivering the Starliner into space. But soon after it was on its own, the Starliner suffered a software problem. Its onboard clock was 11 hours off. As a result, the engines that would have put it on a trajectory to the space station failed to fire, even while other thrusters, designed to keep the capsule stable, did fire, expending precious fuel. Boeing officials regained control of the spacecraft and were able to complete a series of objectives, including maneuvering the capsule, having it communicate with the space station and deploying the docking system to see if it would work in a real scenario. But the spacecraft had consumed too much fuel to make it to the space station, and officials cancelled that part of the mission. 2 days after it launched, Starliner landed safely in the New Mexico desert, days ahead of schedule, and officials from NASA and Boeing went out of their way to highlight the things that went well during the mission. "We're all very excited that a whole lot of things did go right, went very, very well as a matter of fact," Bridenstine said after the landing. "In fact, you could argue that some of the hardest parts of this mission have now been proven to be very capable." But he said the teams would have to figure out what. For more on this story, visit the news article link.